All right, good morning, everybody. Um, Last night I did a video on the ferry, and I was talking about my diet and stuff, and then I made some observations that was kind of you know just the state of the world and what I've been witnessing, and kind of wanted to give you my take on it. This is going to be an important one. I think I have to get this out, and I have to express my concern, specifically with anybody who is starting to follow me. And just a quick backstory. A couple years ago, we were all scared. We were all freaked out. It was a scary time. For obvious reasons, we're not going to mention things because of the powers that be, but we know why. And I was terrified. I'm not gonna lie. I, you know, didn't know, had no idea. And first and foremost, I am not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I am somebody who was not accepting other people being in control of my health. And I took it upon myself to learn about the things I could do to make myself a smaller target, to make myself, uh, what was the difference between, somebody who had bad things happen to them and somebody who didn't. And I learned about my immune system. I learned about what I could do to, you know, get my build a suit of armor around myself that potentially could be the difference maker in a possible bad situation. So I took the road of knowledge. Now we know this. The knowledge is power, and the data that we get, we use that as tools to gain more knowledge and to make a decision. Now through my research, my studying, um, I've come across a lot of things that sort of there's a lot more we can do right now than they're letting us know. There's a lot more things that you can do right now to maybe give yourself a little bit more of a cushion and to feel a little bit better about your situation. So, saying that, I think, you know, we have to discuss, I'm all about diet and nutrition, yes. But what does that mean? You know, we are in a state of flux right now where things seem to be changing, things seem to be, easing off a little bit, getting a little bit more tense in certain places. They've come up with things that were supposed to help us that maybe not really are doing the job that we thought they should be. So I want to give you this observational talk and what I've noticed, especially like I was on the ferry watching people consume garbage food. And it was like a flock of birds heading to the burger, fries, gravy, double cheese, all this stuff. Now we know how I feel about my diet. We know what I'm doing right now, yes, but this is different. And I want to talk about something. We've talked about this before, and it sort of all ties into um, this talk. And I want you to please hear me out with this one. This might be long. I don't know. I'm just speaking off the cuff. I woke up this morning and I had to talk about this because I believe this affects every single one of us dramatically, and it could be maybe the difference maker in your life. And we're talking about from now till whatever comes next. I don't believe that we should be giving our power, especially when it comes to our health, to someone else. You can make changes and you can make a difference in how your body reacts, gets affected by things that are out there in our environment. Now, we're not all perfect, and I want you to know that everybody's situation is different, and everybody has to, has their own fight on their hands. But this could be the change. And, I'm going to put it, like, hopefully take it into a context that you can understand. I'm going to try and be as less sciencey as possible. I'm going to try and keep it as layman as possible. And I want you to know that there are people out there that agree, and we're going to try and separate the truth from what may be, to my opinion and observations. Now, we know things now. Like, you can't hide the facts that people that are immunocompromised or metabolically dysfunctional are at a higher risk. And it's not just age. There's certain things that are relative. And this is to a couple friends of mine. One's worried about cholesterol. One can't conceive a child because of certain things. Another friend of mine, and I'm not going to mention any names, but another friend of mine has a fatty liver. And, my mother was anemic, and, there's certain things that I've helped people with. Like, there's a friend of mine has sleep apnea, which we're trying to work with. And it all comes down to one thing. Like, we take things and we look at them individually. But if you take a step back and use a wide angle lens about what's going on, this may be the difference maker in what comes next. And I believe your state of your body is based on communication with all the systems. Your nervous system, your digestive system. We've talked about this before. Your endocrine system, which is your hormones. Everything revolves around this dance, this balance of things working when they're supposed to. And when something gets disrupted or something gets off, bad things potentially could happen. Now, this could be pain. This could be suffering. This could be respiratory distress. But what people aren't looking at is metabolic dysfunction. And what ties a fatty liver to a potential inability to conceive a child is chronic systemic inflammation. Now, we think of inflammation as take an Advil and ease the pain. And yeah, anti-inflammatories are definitely, they serve their purpose. Do I believe they're necessary? I have not personally taken an Advil or a Tylenol in over 2 years. I rarely get headaches. If I do, I take some salt. And I'm not lying. That's me. That's what happens. Now, minerals and vitamins are essential. We need them. We need them for these systems to function properly. We can go in the weeds all day long about what the different vitamins do and what the different minerals do, but what happens when we don't have this dance, this communication in perfect harmony? That creates duress. That increases distress in your body. Now, we can know that how these things enter our system, excuse me, they come into our environment, certain things, and we get affected by it. Now, how our genetics how the genetics work and how our genes get transcribed and triggered. We have something called epigenetics, which is your environment reflects that. Now, what could it be? It could be, yes, toxic environments, stress, malnutrition, insufficient vitamins and minerals. But one thing that is very common, which I personally see, and it's something called metabolic dysfunction, and basically it's called insulin resistance. Now, some people are going to go, well, what's the insulin? It's a diabetic thing. No, insulin, like the Coles Notes version of insulin, it's your master hormone. When insulin is working, it has to deal with danger. So when we eat sugar, when we eat carbohydrates, your insulin puts that energy, and it does a whole bunch, like a shit ton more of things. But that's kind of the basic thing. As your blood sugar increases, insulin has to put that energy somewhere. If your body can't stop putting that energy somewhere, well, what happens is over time, your body gets insulin resistant. It needs more insulin to do the same job, and eventually it compounds and compounds. Now your blood sugar starts elevating because now the insulin can't put it into the places it wants. Your cells don't want anymore. So that's kind of a ballpark insulin resistance. Now, we know that systemic inflammation, the problem with sugar is it glycates. So there's advanced glycation end products, free radical damage. Your cells oxidize and they do a bunch of things, and these free radicals are lost and they cause things to trigger. Now, when we look at things from that standpoint, are the major risks for insulin resistance, how you know, well, what possibly causes it is heart disease, obesity, diabetes, hypertension. They can be traced back to this. And there is a test. You can ask your doctor for a fasting insulin test. They probably won't do it because it's not part of the no. And I know this might sound like I'm talking out of my ass, but there's definite correlation between metabolic dysfunction, blood sugar, and insulin. Okay? Hormones make us work. They communicate. They tell us what to do. They tell our bodies what to do. If our hormones aren't working properly, bad things happen. So this is just a major thing that I think is very overlooked. Now, everybody's different, and everybody's metabolic state is in a different environment. But your fasting blood sugar should be, at a normal range. And that normal range, it's arguable to say. I mean, it's definitely below 100, which is like 5.6, but 5.7 is pre-diabetes. So if you haven't been taking your blood sugar, you're good until you're not good. And then once it gets past that point, it tends to go faster. So that explains how type 2 diabetics become diabetic later in life because of this denial of or getting a baseline. So I test my blood sugar all the time because I want to know how food affects me. I want to know, and my fasting blood sugar usually is about 86, 87, a little bit higher when I work out. So this morning, for instance, I woke up, did my little morning workout, which I was 50 push-ups, 10 chin-ups, and just a basic stock that I talked about what I was doing for this month. And then I'm going to test my blood sugar. And people think that this is only for diabetics, but this gives me information. This lets me know how my blood sugar is working, and I know if I want to eat something, how fast it can go down or how fast it rises. So I take my little finger prick my finger, put my little strip in there. Now I take it. I got my reading. I can't see it there. And my blood sugar is at 97, which is a little high, but I just did a workout and it tends to go up after I work out. So usually in the mornings, it will go up. But people might say, well, you don't have to do that. You're not diabetic. True. But my philosophy is that it's knowledge. I can see how my blood sugar, I test my blood sugar enough that I can see how foods affect it, how fast it comes down, what would change. If I ate right now, I would get possibly elevated because I'm eating a lot of protein, which means, like, there's gluconeogenesis, which happens, which means my liver makes sugar, could rise, but then my insulin sensitivity tells my blood sugar, my insulin, to push it back to a normal level, which will happen quite quickly. So within an hour, my blood sugar will probably be around 85, 84, which is normal. Now, high blood sugar all the time with the insulin unable to work, that is metabolic dysfunction. That is insulin resistance. If I were to eat sugar and my blood sugar was elevated for a long period of time, and we're talking like, some people go up to 200, 250, which is dangerous to begin with. And if their insulin can't push that blood sugar down, that leads to trouble. So that leads to glycation. That leads to this sugar in your blood that does havoc all over the place. Now, we know our immune system. This is the problem I have with today, is whether you're spiritual or whether you're scientific, whether you're Darwinism, whatever. God and Mother Nature, whether they had a plan for us, made us the way we are. We have deviated so far from Mother Nature's path that now we think we're smarter than Mother Nature. We have been exposed to dangers. The reason our bodies have evolved in a certain way, because our bodies are so able to survive. What's optimal? How you survive? Where that leads? That's up to you, and that's up to, the power, what happens in the world. Sure. But now there's something called metabolic syndrome. And this is something that's fascinating, and it ties into cholesterol, it ties into diabetes, it ties into a whole bunch of things. Metabolic syndrome is tick 3 of these boxes. And look down. If you've got a belly, or you're overweight, or you're obese, your waist circumference is over 40 inches, that's one box, okay? Tick it. Now, if you have high blood pressure, that's the second box. Tick that. Also, if you get a blood draw and you get your blood work done and you have high triglycerides, higher than whatever the average is, high, which is fat in your blood, if you have high triglycerides, that's the other box. Now, if you have a low HDL, which is your good cholesterol, low, that's another box. Now, if you have a high fasting glucose that is, getting up there, it's yes, you're not pre-diabetic, but if your blood sugar is always high and you're fat, what would be better is a hemoglobin A1C, which is the average sugar in your blood over 3 months, which should be low, normal. If that's high, that's the other box. So you have 5 boxes to choose from. If you tick 3 out of those 5 boxes, you have metabolic syndrome. And I'm not here to diagnose. This is not a diagnosis. I don't know. Go talk to your doctor. But this should be a conversation, because this ties in to the state of the world right now. We know that bad outcomes happen to people that are higher risk. If you have metabolic syndrome, you are well on your way to potentially having higher risk. And you can change these things quickly by dietary intervention. That is fact. You have a high blood sugar, stop eating sugar. Now you notice that that metabolic syndrome doesn't mention LDL, bad cholesterol. That is a whole other topic. We know we need cholesterol. And HDL and LDL are not cholesterol. They're the carriers. They're the buses that bring a whole bunch of stuff around our blood and through our lymphatic system. It's a lot more complicated than that. But these are carriers. They're called lipoproteins. They have things in them because fat and blood and water don't mix. So they have to be able to be carried. So That's a whole other thing. But you notice the bad cholesterol is not part of that metabolic syndrome. Now, I would say that your immune system is based on communication. Okay? So, how we get viral exposure is through breathing in, obviously, pathogens, right? So, how well our mucosal layers can protect us might be a difference. Now, once a virus enters a weakened immune system, we have an innate immune system that is given to us by our parents, and we have an adaptive immune system that learns, recognizes, and fights. So that's the stuff that we get along the way. We want our innate immune system to handle things first, which means it recognizes it, calls on a response, and it just deals with it. This is very simplified. I'm not trying to get super complicated. Now, we know what happens with low vitamin D is that gets disrupted. Okay, so now if it goes the other way, that's when your white blood cells and your T cells and your things get called on to go handle something. Now, where we're metabolically dysfunctional, now your immune system is working overtime, and it goes into another pathway where it handles it, and it goes down a process that leads to B cell and antibody production. The other way is what we've heard in the media a lot about a cytokine storm. Cytokines are little things that tell your immune system what to do, or tell your body what to do, and if they panic and freak out, they cause an inflammatory response. So what causes chronic systemic inflammation? It starts with sugar. It starts with overeating carbohydrates. It's there. It's a fact. So I'm not telling you not to eat carbs. Well, I am actually, because I don't believe we don't eat carbs for our body. We eat carbs for our mind, for our brain, because our brain is, we like them. We enjoy them. But nutritionally, there's not really much value except for energy. So when this inflammation is high, your insulin is high, and your body's inflamed, and I'm not talking about just an injury. Chronic systemic inflammation leads to disease, flare-ups, and miscommunication of your whole system. And I want to keep this simple, so I just want everybody to know there is ways to fight this. Be aware of it. Does everybody do the same thing? Life gets in the way. You have a life to do. You have work to do. But I want you to know that if you're scared and if you fear for what's next and what's to come, it doesn't matter where you sit, on what side of the street you're walking down, on what sidewalk. The middle ground is your metabolic health. The middle ground is how well your immune system handles foreign invaders. Now, we can talk about your gut. Yes, leaky gut is a thing. It's caused by the food that you eat, causes confusion, and breaks apart these tight junctions and makes it easier for things to get into places they don't want or they're not supposed to be. Causes an immune response. If your immune response isn't on the ball, it causes distress. It causes more response, panic, confusion. Your hormones get dysfunctioned. So it might not be bad now. You might not have problems now. But if you don't start thinking about protecting yourself, and it starts with diet and exercise. I know that sounds so easy, but it's true. Start understanding nutrition. Start understanding nutrients. Start understanding that some of the things that you eat are not doing any good for you. And yes, you're going to still eat them because they're great, they're tasty. But if you're valuing your survival or your health or your fear factor, you can start making changes right now. Walking gives your body, it helps your body communicate. It starts the thing. Your lymphatic system doesn't have a heart, so you need to move. It just makes sense. All these communication things, it starts with movement. Sit down in a chair for a year straight without getting up. You're not going to be very healthy. Now, start walking. Start realizing that the sugar abuse, and it starts, like, just give you an example. Cereal in the morning, sugar in your coffee, eating a sandwich for lunch, having a chips for a snack, and then having pasta for dinner. Then you have dessert right there. Look at that, right there. If you take away that and just have dessert, it might not be that bad. I mean, I'm not going to say it's good, but this is what happens. And yes, some of us are genetically predispositioned to be a little luckier than others. But some of us can't afford these things. Now, your metabolic flexibility is how your body handles energy. It can use glucose or it can use fat. And if your body can switch back and forth without overloading your body with glucose, you're going to be better off. And I'm telling you guys, like, this is vital, important. The better your whole body can communicate with all your different systems, the better off you'll be. And yeah, you may still get sick, but your ability to fight that is inside you. It's not by some other foreign entity giving you this. We know now. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at who's at risk. And if you're at risk, yes, you need to fix yourself, and you can. And it starts with understanding that these things are you can intervene. You don't have to just, and hey, if you don't want to, that's fine. But if you value your health and you value your, state of yourself in this world right now, isn't it worth a look? Because these things are real. And God gave us power. Mother Nature made us perfect. We are the ones that are kind of screwing that up. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, do you think that we're smart enough to override Mother Nature? I don't know. If it's man-made, it might not be right. That's all I'm saying. That is my opinion. I'm not trying to scare you. I'm not trying to, diagnose you. I'm just showing you what I've come across and learned. And there is things that you can do about it right now. If you need help, there's help out there. I'm not the smartest guy. I have just witnessed, and I'm looking at all these things that people have. Don't wait until you're desperate. Don't wait until it's too late. Make subtle changes now. Go towards, start doing things for yourself that will ease your mind. Meditating. Sure, it sounds woo, but it's not. It will help things. Start breathing better through your nose. If you breathe through your mouth ever and you're not exhausted or exerted, there's science out there that says we should be nasal breathing. And that's not only for the breath, but it also for viruses. Now, your mucosal layer, vitamin A, these things are all tied into this. If you're not getting proper nutrition, if you're not nourishing your body, you may be susceptible to a worse outcome from anything. And now stress. ease of mind. Find your own way, whether it's yoga, whether it's walking, whether it's lifting heavy weights and throwing heavy shit around. Hit a punching bag. Do things. Stand up and walk up the stairs. You know, we can go into water, you know, hydration, your electrolyte balance, all these things. It gets confusing, but it doesn't have to be. You just got to start realizing that you can take some power back and you can eliminate some of the risk by these interventions. And I want everybody to know that if you can hurt, you can heal. And healing starts with questions. And I'm questioning everything. And I may be wrong, but there's certain things that I have seen from myself that have led me to this place of at least I control my own destiny. I can't control anything else, but I can control myself. And that has led me to lose some weight. That has led me to get stronger. Be stronger than the next guy. If you're stronger than the next guy, you have a better chance. You know? And it starts now. You know, I've had a few videos now where, you know, I have opinions and I have bias. But one thing for certain is if you don't start protecting yourself and coming to realize that there's a lot of power that you can have, who knows? And what's coming next, we don't know. You know, I'm scared for the world because, you know, we're giving all of our faith into foreign powers, and take it back. Put power in yourself. Give yourself a fighting chance. And then you know what? Everything falls in line. And your ability to recover, regenerate, there's tools out there. I'll help you. If you want to know how to do things, if you want to know my opinions, and this is my personal feeling, but I believe you should be concerned. And you don't have to be utterly afraid. But these things matter. And things will get better one step at a time. All right, I'm not going to keep you any longer. We're going to get into some videos into a little bit more detail, but this is something I just witnessed yesterday, and people are scared, and they're still scared, and we don't know what's going on. You can control what you do, and these things are there. You know, I'm just throwing it out there. So I wish everybody health, happiness, and love. All right? And you might not agree with me. You might think I'm a whack job. That's okay. I'm just giving you my opinion, what I've observed with myself, and what I believe matters. So, saying that, I'm glad. Thank you for the time. If you could, please like this, and maybe share it with somebody who needs to hear it. Because people don't know. People don't know. All right? Have a good one. Be safe, everybody. Stay strong.